Hey everyone, my name is Estrogen and you're watching the Estro Den, and in this video we are going to be dropping in for the very first time. Make sure you're wearing your knee pads and you've got your helmet, and you've also already watched our video, Advice for Beginners Going to the Skate Park for the Very First Time, because there's a bunch of tips in there about how to pump, and there's some prerequisite checklist of skills that we really need you to have before we drop in. So watch that video and make sure you've got all those skills before you drop in. Are we ready to start? That was quick. Okay, that was too easy. Let's start. Helmet on. There is a really good chance that we're gonna fall a whole bunch learning this, so make sure you're wearing your helmet. Next, get used to the idea of being on the deck at the top of the ramp. This is the deck, this is the coping, that's the transition that leads to the flat bottom, and then everything repeats itself symmetrically on the other side. Just skate along the side of this coping. It may invoke some fear in a surprising way, so just get this fear out of the way. Just get used to being up here. Sometimes you go to a ramp and it feels intimidating, almost as if it's sucking you into the ramp itself and you feel like you're just gonna fall. You're in control, you're up here, you know how to roller skate forwards and backwards, and you can turn, and the ramp's not pulling us in and we're not falling into the ramp when we're standing close to the coping on the deck. Next, start at the bottom. I know that you've heard this before, but let me show you physically how we start at the bottom. You're going to turn this into a sliding board. Get yourself to the middle of the flat portion of the ramp. And since you already know how to pump, this drill is designed to help you get comfortable skating over the coping after a good pump. So we're trying to skate the entire ramp with this drill. When we get close to the coping, we're gonna steer our upper body, our shoulders, our head, and our upper back bodies. Like a car, we're gonna turn at the top. But we're gonna make sure that we get our skates close to the coping, rolling over the coping. We're gonna get really familiar with that intimidating piece of steel while we're turning. To make this less intimidating as you get close to the coping, put your weight in your heels. Turn your upper body like a car, put the weight in the heels as you're getting close. Can you hear my wheels going over the coping? I'm not tripping over them, it's like magic. It's really hard to trip over them. All right, so my rational mind tells me when I'm doing this drill, I should be able to drop in. I can skate the whole ramp. And I hope that this drill leads your rational mind to that place too, because it gives you confidence. I can skate this whole ramp. I should be able to drop in. I'm ready. So there's a couple of body positions that you're going to want to know about for your upper body and your lower body. For your lower body, it's all about which foot is going to lead first into the ramp. There's many variations of stances and turning styles. Do not take a friend or anyone in some video's advice about which foot is right for you. The foot that's right for you is the one that makes you feel most secure and confident and comfortable and stable up on the coping. When determining which lower body position, it's all about your feet and which foot you're gonna put into the ramp first. And there's a bit of a balancing act to that, because your upper body, your head, your shoulders, and your upper back are going to be the ones that lead you into the ramp. So getting a solid positioning with your skates here on the coping is important. And there's so many different variations. There is 2 wheels over the coping with your slider or plate straddling the coping. Usually this foot is completely weightless. All the weight is back here so that you can transfer your weight from the deck into the ramp. You may turn right, you may turn left. This foot may be comfortable if you turn right or left. This foot might be more comfortable if you turn left or right. There's no right or wrong way to do it. It's your personal preference. So choose the foot that is most comfortable to you. Some people like to just jump in. They don't want to put one foot here and think about the body positioning. They just want to go straight in. My one friend likes to wind up and like skate out of the park and then turn back at the coping and then with a running start jump in so she doesn't have to think about it. Then there was this junior derby skater that I know, ESTRO. Freaking love you and I miss you. ESTRO used to put one foot in and then drop in that way. I thought that one was so sketchy, but that was the only way that ESTRO was comfortable doing it. What are some other ways? Oh, toe stop? Oh yeah. Another way is to get on a toe stop and then put your foot in. Toe stops can be like surefire stability because there's no wheels rolling. So I understand that one. So you've got one truck over, maybe two trucks over, maybe it's the right foot, maybe it's the left foot, maybe you're jumping in, maybe you're rolling in, and maybe you're Dita and you turn and then go in. You drop in backwards. Actually, that's not even the way she does it. She does it like something like, it's so awesome. She's like, whoa. All right, so figure out your feet positioning and then focus mostly on the upper body. The upper body is what's going to get you out of the ramp and successfully through the flat bottom. You're not going to splat to flat. You're going to skate all the way through this if you follow this advice. Put your hands on your knee pads. Hold on to them all the way down the ramp. And when you get to flat, then you can let go of them. But you have to get all the way to the flat with your hands on your knee pads. That is surefire, ensuring that your upper body is leading if you are able to keep your hands on your knees. Oftentimes when we're dropping in for the first time, we feel the wave and then we want to stand up and find normal ground, but there is no normal ground. We are turning into Spider-Mans that are able to walk up walls. So this wall, our floor, our ground, it transitions and turns and pitches upward. And we need to transition and turn our bodies to be positioned in the same direction. Does that click? That's a big clicker for me. So your head and shoulders, your upper body is in the ramp first. Then you find stability on the coping, and then you lead with your head, and once you get to the flat, you're gonna look up at the rail, not at the coping. But we'll get to that in a second. If you're doing the jumping in tactic, you can even really rely on your head and shoulders and just toss them into the ramp. Make sure that you're leading with your head and shoulders. Before we move on, I just want to touch on a couple of tips. When you're pumping, make sure that you're bending your knees very deeply on the drop-in and when you're just before you start to go up the ramp. When you get through the flat, bend your knees and prepare yourself to be pitched out of the ramp. So bend your knees very deeply when you're pumping. Also, make sure that your weight is distributed amongst both legs and skates. So you're not leading with one foot and then you land up in the splits in the flat. Make sure that your weight is equally distributed in both skates, but you're in a staggered stance. Not a split stance, but just a nice, comfortable stagger stance. When you're practicing your pumps, be cognizant of which foot is your leading foot and which one is your back, because that information may help you determine which position you want your feet in on the initial drop-in up here at the coping. And I think that's it. Now we're going to move on to getting out of the ramps. You want to have an exit strategy. You want to be able to skate out of the ramp. Oftentimes we drop in for the first time and then we're not really sure how to get out, this is what this video is about. This video is going to teach you how to drop in and get out of the ramp also. Once you get to the flat bottom, most people are staring at the coping. From teaching thousands of skaters, when they're learning, beginner skaters look at the coping because they're fearing the coping. They want to avoid it. They want as much information about the coping as possible so that it doesn't hurt them, because it's steel and it can hurt. Staring at the coping is not serving you, and I'm going to demonstrate why. As you get closer to the coping with your eyeballs, your hips will pinch and you won't be able to get out of the ramp. You'll actually be sucking yourself back into the ramp. So I'm going to stare at the coping and watch what my hips do. My body folded into the coping. You go, your skates go, wherever your eyes are set. So we need to set our gaze at the rails or some object behind the coping. You want your eyes to land up here, not down here. If you stare at the coping, you'll be stuck in the ramp. But if you spot something that's about here, you'll get up here. So I like to look at this when I'm down there. When I'm comfortable dropping in and pumping, then I get more confident in my ability to bend my knees just before the transition. And when you bend your knees and do that pump, it's going to give you an enormous amount of power. But if you're staring at the coping, that power is going to go into the coping. So you want to look up and get your upper body gaze up and out of the ramp. So I'm going to look at the back rails of this ramp as I get closer to the coping. Coping, coping, rails. And it flings me out. Coping, rail. So just as I'm about to pump up the transition, I look at the rail and that sets my upper body up and out and onto the deck. And that's how you get out of the ramp. And that concludes my how to drop in and get out of a ramp tutorial. All ramps are different. All transition feels different. Even if you know how to drop in on one ramp and then you go to another ramp, don't assume that you can drop in on that one. All ramps feel different. You're going to want to start at the bottom whenever you're arriving at a new ramp. You just want to feel the transitions out before you drop in. Dropping in is an intermediate skill. It's not a beginner skill. There's so many other basics that we need to work on before taking the plunge. So many people fall when doing this. Be prepared to fall. One thing I like to do, like when I was dropping into the vert ramp, I was so concerned about going forward. I didn't want to smack my head like I'd seen so many people not lean forward. I overcommitted. I somersaulted down the thing. I got I took all the skin off my shoulder. But when I got to the bottom, I was like, whoa, I never expected that to happen. That was the worst case scenario. I feel confident to do it again, but just know that you can overly commit. So you want to lean your head and shoulders in, and you want to hold on to your knee pads because there is such an enormous propensity to go backwards when the ground is literally a sliding board. So just make sure that you bend your knees. If you do it correctly and you hold on to your knee pads and your head and shoulders are leaning forward, and then you get that surprise gust of speed when you're going down the transition, bend your knees. That gust of speed can surprise you, and it can surprise you in a way that you want to stand up and find normal ground again. But the normal ground's not there. The normal ground is transitioning constantly on ramps. So it's just best to bend your knees. Bending your knees is really your safety, your quick find balance position. Bend your knees, squat. We can't say bend your knees enough. All right, I think that's a lot. That's everything I got. There's quarter pipes, there's vert ramps, there's bowls. There's so many different ramps to learn how to drop in. All of these demos were all around a mini ramp. That's what I got for you today. Please subscribe to the channel because I'm going to be doing drop-in tutorials for the vert ramp and for quarter pipes, and I'm going to be skating all different kinds of ramps for the rest of my life. So please subscribe to my channel. If you like it, please, I love the thumbs up. It makes me feel so good. Thank you so much for liking my videos. And I think that's all. I love you, and until next time, leave me a comment and tell me what video to make next. Bye.